Welcome to this episode of Wanderlust Solo Women Travel Unscripted. Real women, real stories, real journeys, and no filter. Join Gina, your host, to share the experiences and stories of solo female travelers and advocates from all over the world, with a mission to empower women of all ages, backgrounds, and life stages to embrace solo female travel with confidence and enthusiasm, while being authentic and real, unscripted. Confronting the challenges and apprehensions many women face when considering solo adventures, providing inspiration to break through those barriers. Sharing how life transitions, loss, and trauma can lead to amazing experiences, rediscovery, and life journeys. The good, the bad, and the ugly of authentic and honest travel. So let's throw out the script, get comfy, and jump right into this episode.
Joining us is adventure author Pamdiana Jones. Her debut memoir, When in Rome, ROAM, is a fast-paced, action-packed comedy travel memoir about how she accidentally travelled around the world solo through South Africa, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand, and Hawaii for 3 years. The cover of the book is Pam getting shoved from the bungee platform after she changed her mind about jumping, setting the tone for the entire book of her fumbling her way through I Shouldn't Be Alive adventures. Another book, The Secret of Oak Island, is Pamdiana's teen treasure hunt. Written in 1963 by her grandfather, unpublished manuscript was found in a dusty attic, enhanced by Pam and published in 2023. Pam's ready to publish her next comedy travel memoir called Roaming Oceania and 3 children's adventures books starring her real-life twins. Pamdiana is excited to have become an international selling author on day one, and she is proud to have won a Solace Award for her writing style. She has been making the podcast interview rounds and appearing in magazines across the globe. So I'm glad she's joining us. Let's dive into this episode. Welcome everyone to this episode of Wanderlust Solo Women Travel Unscripted. And today we've got a really exciting episode that has lots of adventure and twists and turns with Pamdiana Jones. Welcome, Pamdiana.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
And she's coming to us from California, correct?
Correct. Just south of Los Angeles, a little town called Laguna Beach.
Nice. I've heard about Laguna Beach. I think there was a few sitcoms or something set there. So
I'm sure. I'm sure.
So we've got so much to cover today. I'm actually really excited because you're an author. So we're going to touch on your books that you have written and the ones coming up, and also your adventures back in the 90s, which I think's super relevant to a lot of our listeners out there. And I hope it gives them some inspiration. But first, I just want to touch on our signature question, which I think is really relevant for you. So this is our pass a parcel question from the previous guest. So our previous guest asked, if you travelled before technology, what do you miss about it? If not, what have you realised about technology that is useful for travel now?
Oh, brilliant question. I had never been anywhere until I was about 24 in 1995. Internet was just becoming a thing, and I didn't have email yet. And I found, as a single woman traveling around the world by myself, many people took me under their wing. Oh, come to my barbecue. Come stay over here at my cousin's house. Come to our friend's wedding. And I don't know if that would have been as possible if I just downloaded an app and picked my taxi and got dropped off at my resort. So I would have missed out on so many locals, because I had to be bold and instead of looking at my husband or my partner or my travel friend and go, what do you want to do for lunch today? I had to ask a local, hey, is there a good place around here? And they'd go, oh, join us. So if I didn't have to take that step, if I just Googled it and went, oh, what's nearby, I would have missed out on my entire trip. Because from there, oh, my cousin has a place to stay down south 2 more hours. Why don't you check out that town too? So that natural evolution just kept going. So that's what I miss about it. We just spent last summer in Europe, and I noticed we didn't make any lifelong friends on that journey like I did on all the other ones. I've got 30-year-old friendships that are still going strong because of that first journey with no technology.
Yeah, that's actually a really good observation, and I've found that myself from when I did my big OE and my fees. I've got lifelong friends from that, yet I don't know sometimes if it's traveling with a partner also affects that dynamic because, like you said, no one is taking you under their
Right.
wing, and maybe they think you're okay and you're taking care. I shouldn't say taken care of because that's not quite right, but that you don't need. But yeah, I have found I haven't made, even as a couple, made the same connections. But you're so
Mhm.
right. Like you are forced in a way to actually talk to people, which
Mhm.
you can travel now and just stay stuck to your screen and not engage with
Yeah.
anyone or anything around you.
That's a fact. However, with the good things of technology, if we arrive at midnight and the person is asleep, they just go push the code and that gives you your key and you can let yourselves in. So that was very nice to make it easy like that. So there's pros and cons for sure.
100%. Like, I think staying connected with family and friends back home, things
That's
like
nice.
that, searching information, making bookings, 100% technology has been really beneficial.
Yes, I see that
But
too.
yeah, on a personal, deep down level, I think it's been probably a bit more negative because we're not having those. I watched a really good, I don't know if you've seen it yet. It's called The Last Tourist. I
Ooh,
think
no,
you would
sounds
love
fabulous.
it. It's on Amazon Prime, but it's an amazing documentary if you're into travel and how travel and
Of
tourism
course.
has evolved. But a lot of the imagery they're showing, everyone's looking through they're not looking at the scene, they're looking at their
Yeah.
phone at the scene.
Yeah, it's not as breathtaking. We just went to a
Yeah.
concert and same thing. I'm watching the concert through the person in front of me's phone. I'm like, put it away. You can see that online all day, every day. You're here right now. The energy, the vibe. The band needs the energy too. I can imagine as the
Yeah.
bandmates for 30 years are playing away, the energy, the crowd is boosting them to do the next song. And now everybody's into their phone where they're like, we're gonna cut the concert short a little bit. We've played enough songs. It's not the same vibe. So
Yeah.
we just went to a wedding and the bride luckily said, "Leave your phones down. We will send you pictures. Be present." And everybody applauded that. So that was
Yeah.
nice to hear, especially from a younger woman. She was just
Yeah.
turning 28 or something. So it's like, oh, fabulous decision.
And it is quite freeing. I went to a concert and it was Florence and the Machine, and she actually said to the
Nice.
audience, "Please all put your phones down. If I see a phone up, I'm actually going to stop playing."
Nice.
And so we were forced to be in the moment, and
Oh,
it's
even
a hard
better.
one because we all want those amazing photos. I mean, I'm just as guilty, but there is something you get your photo, then put your phone away.
Yes. 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 And we took our children to Metallica. So they think we're the coolest parents in the world. That was their first concert.
That's gonna be a memory they have forever.
Yeah. It's going to be hard to top that one.
Well, so, that sort of segues back when you first started your adventures, it was in the 90s, wasn't it? So
Yes.
elaborate how that all started.
Sure. In my very early 20s, 21, 22, 23, I had just got a new apartment with furniture that I had furnished myself. And I was just a waitress working day shifts. So I was not a wealthy person at all. You get your first IKEA furniture and your friend has an old couch and your grandma's coffee table and it works. But my moving truck got stolen when I was moving to San Diego. So I was just devastated. It was devastating, full of everything I own. I had the outfit on my back. So that really puts things in perspective because I was also starting to go, I need a better job to get a better apartment to put all my new furniture in. So all of this. All of a sudden I was free. What do I really want to do? So my sister and I decided to move to a ski resort town called Park City, Utah, which is right outside Salt Lake. And there I met a man who was not my boyfriend. We didn't date. And I just said, "What are you doing when the snow melts?" His name was Jay. He goes, "I'm going surfing in South Africa." And my jaw just dropped. Wow. And that's one of the places. Let me back up a little bit. My grandparents were big world travelers. That's one of the places they had lived as well. They were British, but they had lived all over Africa. He saw my face. He goes, "Oh, do you want to go?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "The ticket is $1,175." And I had $1,200 to my name. So I emptied my entire bank account except for $25 and I handed it to Jay the next day and he was shocked. He goes, "Oh, everybody has all of these excuses of why they can't go." And I said, "None here. Let's go." So we were leaving in a month and that gave me time to sell my car for $3,000. And I don't know how much traveling costs. So I thought $1,000 a month. It was supposed to be a 3-month trip while he surfed the coast of South Africa. So he bought the tickets and off we went. And we took a 28-hour flight and then a 29-hour train ride. And on page 1 of my book, and the very first night there is a stabbing on the train. That's all my fault in the night train in Africa. So page 1 on my book just starts with a blur there. You just
Wait
off
till
and
you read the
running.
book.
But it's my fault, and I have to realize we're not just having an adventure that we're like a little that chaos theory when someone steps on a butterfly and a year later there's an earthquake over in a different country. It's the ripples
Ripple
on a pond
effects.
that cause that. And I went, oh gosh, our decision to take that third class train ride instead of the second affected this whole thing now. So we end up buying a car in Cape Town, and my friend Jay is traveling so dirt cheap. He insists on white rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So $2 for a bag of rice for the whole week. And we buy the car and then we sell the car on the way out. And then we're washing our clothes with a bar of soap in the sink, not splurging in many ways at all, except for the journey. But his sister decides to get married right in the middle of our trip. So he doesn't want to miss out and rushes home. Well, I have friends there now, and I say, good luck to you. Thank you for teaching me everything. I'm going to continue on with the 3 months. Well, I've only spent $900 in the 3 months, and I still have, I think, $2,300 left. So on the flight on the way home back to Los Angeles, I asked the stewardess, I go, can I get off the flight in Malaysia? And she goes, yes, it's good for a year. I didn't know what Jay had bought. So I ended up going all the way through Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, all the way through Sumatra, Java, Bali, Lombok. And I've still only spent another, I don't know, $1,200. So I still have, 1,800, maybe 1,500 to go. And I think Australia's right there. New Zealand's right there. And I begin working along the way and I end up on that side of the world for a couple of years. So by the time I get home, it's a couple months shy of 3 years. So I just say it's my 3-year journey. So a lot of good times and adventures and scary times and danger and unbelievable moments that you just go, that never would have happened had I not been brave enough to take that first step. And I don't know if I would have been brave enough had my moving truck not gotten stolen.
Yeah. And that's really interesting because I actually did a blog post about forced change because
Yeah.
sometimes there's things and they can be quite traumatic at the time. They take everything out of our control and they force us into a situation, but how good things can come of that. And that's a really good
I insist
example.
on that. Anything that happens to my children now, I go, you won't realize it yet, but let's see where this goes.
Yeah, exactly, 100%, and you can't see it sometimes at the
Yeah.
time, and even the serendipity of you meeting that guy Jay. I mean, how
Yeah.
amazing that you could have had if you'd met a girlfriend and you'd gone on a trip, it would have
Hmm.
been totally different.
Yeah. And what if he wasn't open enough to have a person go too? What if he went, I'm going
Yeah,
surfing. Have a good day. Bye. It could have
yeah,
went that way too. So
and the
I
fact
think we
you
were supposed
learnt
to meet. And
learnt
what's
all
funny
those
now,
things.
I was just going to say what's funny now, that was 30 years ago, and he lives about 20 minutes from me, and he's a ship's captain in Newport, and he drives people,
Wow.
the tourists, around in a boat over there. So once in a while, me and my kids and husband will go have lunch with him. So, and I
Oh,
just
that's
texted him, I go, 30
great.
years since we left for our trip. He goes, boy, we better meet and have lunch and reminisce. So just a fun connection there too.
That's so cool though that you're still connected. And that's
Yeah,
another brilliant thing about travel, that it brings people into your life that you never thought you could have in your life and how enriching that
absolutely.
is.
Well, just there's miracles that happen every day, and they could be small. You don't have to walk on water, but to be invited to a Muslim wedding in the tiny jungles of islands off of Sumatra
Mm.
because my boat didn't show up. So I'm like, they're all, hey, I thought I was gone today, and they go, why not? My cousin's getting married tonight. Why don't you come? Fabulous. I would love to see a Muslim wedding. I've never seen anything like it in my life. So, why don't you go stay over here? And my cousin owns a lion park or whatever. You're all, what? So just unbelievable things that the whole book starts out with a epilogue and a prologue. I'm about 20 years old. I'm working in a fancy restaurant in Los Angeles, and there's a gentleman that is clearly Rod Stewart, but I think he's not the singer Rod Stewart. I think he's a man that is pretending to be him, that looks just like him, and he's wearing his hair like him. He
That's
asked
something
me
I'd
what I
do.
Yeah, he asked me would I like to be in a video. And I go, I don't I don't want to spoil the ending, but so spoiler alert right here, the very ending. I explain this whole thing that I crack a joke to him. I go, no, I don't want to be in a video, but if you'd like to be a busboy here at the restaurant, I can put in a good word for you. And he doesn't laugh. And I think, oh gosh, maybe it is Rod Stewart. And when I go back to get the bill, he's already paid it at the front desk and it does say Rod Stewart. And I can see him walking out to his car and I'm like, yeah, I want to be in your video. Yeah. So that moment showed me that was a missed opportunity. I could have been a video girl. I didn't want to be a video girl. I didn't know that was going to be fun, but I just said no to something for no reason. So I thought I'm going to say yes to everything and then figure out if that's important in my life. So halfway, a bunch of times in the book, I'm like, thank you, Rod Stewart, for me riding a bull. Thank you, Rod Stewart, for me shoveling coal in a boat, one of those steamships. I'm just, he doesn't know this, obviously, and we've never met, but my mother thinks he would remember me because I'm the only person in Los Angeles that doesn't want to be in the movies.
I think he probably actually would. I actually really like Rod Stewart, and
Me
yeah, so
too.
that's such a funny story, and that's so something I would do as well.
Yeah.
Do you think like you saying no to him was, there was a bit of skepticism, and you didn't trust that person, so
That's exactly
you
how I
think you
worded it. I
would,
go, "Who is this guy?"
yeah.
Yeah. And I
So
just
you
go, "I
have
don't
to
like what?"
be open to, because I can remember when I first went to Egypt, my first trip to Egypt, and I went by myself, but I ended up with a tour group, and it was amazing, amazing bunch of girls, younger than me, but from Canada, and I was quite overwhelmed with the whole thing because Egypt can be quite full on, and you have hawkers hounding you all the time, and you saying no, thank you in the local language all the time, and then there was this one guy, and he was hounding me as we were going and I was like, and I just had enough, and I turned around and went, no. And the girls go, he was just asking for your ticket. But it's that fear, sometimes, like you
What you think
said,
is going on, yeah.
yeah, like I did the same, coming back from a small island. Actually, it was Koh Phangan,
You know
and
it then, yeah.
in Thailand, and I was supposed to catch a train all the way back up to Bangkok. The ferry I'd got over wasn't the same ferry I'd gone back on, so it stopped at a different place, and it was like an hour away from the train station, which was
Oh,
in a
no.
small town. And they were loading all the tourists onto this big bus to take them into town, and I was in a panic, and I was trying to pull my bag off, and a local lady saw me, and she said, well, where are you going? And I said, I need to get to the train station. She said, we're going that way. I'll take you. I was like, sure
Nice.
thing. I was just like,
Yeah.
yeah. Hopped in this van with these strangers and went. And then on the way, she said, when's your train? And I told her, and she said, you're not going to make it. And I was like, ugh. And the next train was like 5 a.m. in the morning. It
Oh,
was a tiny
amazing.
town. So she said, we're going to Bangkok. Do you want to ride? And I was like, okay.
That's a miracle, see? Those are one of the miracles.
Yeah, so you've sometimes just got to trust your gut and also trust other people.
Yeah,
we're so bombarded with negative stuff, and that's what we're showing a
absolutely.
lot. There's a lot of good people out there, and I think that's one thing we touched on before we started the interview about, paying it forward. When someone does you a good deed while you're traveling, it's great to be able to pay that back. I mean, and you mentioned you'd had that happen to you.
Oh, I wouldn't have had the trip. Like you said, you trust your gut instinct on a whim. Same thing. Do you want to go with this person? And my joke is that my children can't read my book until they're 30 because I do quite a bit of hitchhiking in there. So, and obviously worldly things that I was learning along the way of this culture does that. And wait, women are treated how? And what happens in that town? So a lot of things that they have to just be a little bit older to read, but I'm jumping in. Well, you're in New Zealand. The full face tattoos are not something I'm used to. And I was hitchhiking New Zealand and three stoned Maori, older, I must say biker types, I guess, but
Yeah.
nobody had to come to get me for 2 hours. So I jump in with them. And I've got a tiny tattoo on my foot of a little paw print that I had gotten the night before Africa. So I go, all right, I'm a tourist. I'll just ask about it. So tell me about the tattoos on your face. And they explained it's the mother's side of the family and the father's side of the family. But they'd each gotten them done while they were in prison. So while I was learning about that, they had said that the Maoris were not the first tribes on the islands of New Zealand, that it was the Morioris and that the Maoris had eaten them all back in the day. So I realized I'm sitting with tattoo faced prison guys that were from cannibalistic things. I'm like, they're high as a kite with a shotgun in the back seats. I go, yep, it's just a regular Tuesday. But they brought me home safely and offered for me to go to their barbecue. And I secretly thought, well, whose ribs are we going to eat? So I go, no, I have to start my new job. But just, I don't, I would never hitchhike now and I don't condone it now. But at the time I had learned a little bit that if you felt creepy about somebody, that you pretend to go north even though you're really going south. And they go,
Yeah.
you're a dum-dum, you're on the wrong side of the road. And you go, yep, I'm a dum-dum, bye-bye. So I didn't get that vibe from them, even though we, talked and talked. And I showed them my tiny tattoo and they thought I was one of them. So we laughed about the cultural differences of our towns.
Yeah, and I think that you touched on something there. You have to of course, have caution, and I think, like you mentioned earlier before we were talking, the 90s were a golden age. Even here in New Zealand, I think if you came back to New Zealand now, it's drastically changed, which is really,
Right.
really
Right.
sad. Majority of houses wouldn't lock their doors. You'd leave your
Mhm.
windows open. Kids, like myself, would bike to school, and we'd hitchhike, and God,
Yeah.
I can remember some parties we went to and walk
Yeah.
home miles at 5 o'clock in the morning. But so much has changed since then, which is quite sad. So you still have to have that air of caution, but trusting your gut, I think, is one of the best things you can rely on, especially as a woman, because we've got
Yeah.
amazing instincts.
Well, I think to travel alone, it becomes a muscle that you rely on. So if you
Yeah.
start out with small things each day, should I have the turkey sandwich or the ham sandwich? And then it goes turkey sandwich. Don't argue with that. Don't go, well, the turkey's going to go bad first before the ham, and I should really. No, your first instinct was a turkey sandwich. So just make it and then see how your day unfolds with all of those thoughts. Oh, now which shirt should I wear? Where should I go to the market? Whatever, your day will unfold. And then when there's something big coming, like who should I hitchhike with, or what do I do in the middle of a fire or whatever, that instinct will be fresh and you'll know
Yeah.
how to read it much quicker, I think.
Yeah.
So I still try to practice that, but it's a lot harder when you're in your safe little home, your little town. It fades away when you're home again.
And I think, yeah, that's sort of what we again talked about briefly. Is I've known women like yourself that have gone on incredible journeys, back in the 90s without technology, right into the 2000s, done incredible things. They've gone on, they've got families now and children, and they've lost. Maybe it is because we're in this bubble now, and they've had conversations to me. They don't think they could do that anymore.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important you have done it. So of course you can do it again.
Well, have you seen those little funny videos that say, they're not like us, they're not like us? And it says, basically, one lady my age goes, I stole my mom's car to go get some ice cream when I was 14. And she goes, my daughter won't even take the trash barrel out to the end of the driveway if it's dark out. So they're not like us. So
Yeah.
this generation, I saw another meme that said, Generation X was 30 when they were 10 and they're still 30 when they're
Yeah.
50. So, but they're going to lead their lives and it's going to be whatever they need
Yeah.
spiritually as well. So that we got something that we needed.
Yeah, but I think like you're having your book, like, you've got two children, they're twins, a boy and a
Yeah.
girl. But I think how empowering it is to share, you've recorded your memoirs in your book and you're writing a new one, which is really exciting. We'll go
Thank
into
you.
that a
Yeah.
bit later on. But how cool is it to be able to, document your adventures as a confident, woman out there exploring the world so your daughter can see what you were before you were a mum.
Absolutely. I was an older mother. I had my twins at 40. So how many beaches can you lay on? How many concerts can you go to before you go, I have more love to give? And I waited a long time for these guys. So there's nothing they do that ever makes me feel like it's a burden or that like I waited so long. All right, I get to do your dishes. So it's really a unique time in your life when you waited and tried and, had to go the extra mile to get a family. But we had to do in vitro fertilization where you spend the thousands of dollars and get help from the doctor. And the doctor had in vitro babies and he goes, I know how you feel. You're going to want to wrap them in bubble wrap and keep them safe. I go, no, 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 no. I want them to go skydiving and scuba diving. Like I want them to live. I've been waiting for them to get here. So let's go crazy. And obviously we haven't done those things yet, but just to see the lights up in their eyes of this is life, this is fabulous. So I might be the crazy mom who does too much where they go, Mom, that's a little much. So they're my little old curmudgeons that go, no, 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 not today. I'm like, all right, I'll sit down and shut
They're
up.
holding mum back.
But one day they're going to appreciate that. Like we had to go to speech therapy for one of the twins years ago. And the teacher always said, well, what did you do this week? We went to a butterfly farm. We went down to the beach. We threw a ball over here. We went to that dog park. And she goes, every other mom just stays home with their kids this age. She goes, you've done 10 things in 1 week. I just saw you a few days ago. So I go, oh, we're out and about. Let's do it. So
I think that's
I know we
fabulous.
come like a hurricane to other people that stay with us. They're like, oh, we're exhausted, So I think it's hilarious because they're 14 right now. I feel like I have 5 more minutes with them before they go off with their
Yeah.
friends for 10 years. So I'm trying to enjoy that moment.
That's so special. But I think that's such an important thing that, what you are doing is, by writing these things down, because it's also a good reminder to yourself. because
Yeah,
we take photos, but how often do we look at them, to be honest?
right.
Especially now they're on our phones. I think it was better
Yeah,
when we used to print them out. I can remember spending hours going through my parents' photo albums, but
right.
now they're on our phones. This is the thing, we're probably taking more photos than ever, but actually looking at them less.
Absolutely. My own mother, she's a natural triplet. And her father was a British man and his parents were British. And they had went all over Africa as a family before my mother was born. And then she was born in England. And when he heard it was triplets, oh, he fainted right there. But her entire life, I think they have 25 pictures. So one
Yeah.
day she showed us the slides and we're like, well, is that just what is that? Like, how that's your whole entire life? There's one when they're 3, there's one when they're 7, there's one when they're 14. So that's just how you did it back then. So now we've got 50 of them eating lunch. So it's a different time.
Every moment's captured, but we don't, and
Yeah.
and I think by you sharing these in these books, so you've got your book When in Rome, so can we have a
Let me
look at the
show that.
little, and I wanna, like, for those that don't
Oh,
get
it's a little blurry. Oh, there we go.
Pamdiana, like, I hope
Yeah.
you can get the Pamdiana, the
And
Panya.
Pamdiana Jones is my pen name as a spoof from Indiana Jones. My book is When in Rome, but ROAM, like you're roaming around. And this is a little blurry, so I must have hit a weird button. But in Lake Taupo, I've gone up on the bungee platform and I've just told my friend, I don't want to go. This isn't for me. And he says, okay. And then he shoves me off. And I'm just going, oh no, am I even clipped in correctly? So
Oh
he's
my
kind of
god,
going,
that's my
he's kind of
worst
going in
nightmare.
or he's going in with his arms. So that is the cover because that's all the dumb things I get myself into and out of just my naivety, cringeworthy, what I thought was going to happen. Oh no, I didn't know the laws of this country. Oh boy. So just fumbling my way into and out of outrageous, I shouldn't be alive adventures the whole way through. And to be a memoir writer, you have to decide, are you really going to let it all out there? And I think I can't think of one thing I really held back, but it's, you can't write a memoir and write what you wish had happened. You have to write what really
Yeah,
happened. So
that's
there's
true.
conversations I wish I didn't have. There's things I wish I didn't say and do. And I'm like, okay, one day when I'm 98, I'm going to want to read it and go, oh yeah, that was me. So I
Yeah.
can't make up something weird. Can I share with you a funny thing though? Out of all my 5-star and 4-star reviews about how great my book is, I have one curmudgeon that gave me a 1-star review. And he said, um, her travels are obviously made up. No one is this ignorant unless you're the most ignorant person in the world. And I just made a t-shirt out of it because I think it's so funny. Yes, I'm this ignorant. This is me. At first it stung a little bit. And all my friends, when I told them, they go, no, that's hilarious. And I go, my book is hilarious. And that's so funny now that would make me buy the book if I saw that 1-star review. So I thought, let me make a t-shirt out of it. I think my next book signing, I'm going to wear that on my back there.
Yeah, I'm glad you twisted that around because I know he said it, ignorance, but also maybe was it innocence? That's the other thing about the 90s,
Yeah.
it was a golden age. I think, I was
Yeah.
born in
There
the
was no
70s. I
Google.
think you were too,
Yeah. 1970. Yeah.
I think we were blessed to grow up in like through the 80s. That was my
Me
teenage
too.
years.
Yeah.
We rode bikes everywhere. We stayed out to dark. I know our fun thing was to go out on the weekends and build huts. We'd find, because we lived in the
Yeah.
country, and build a hut, and we'd even light fires and
We'd call it a fort and did the same
yeah,
thing right in the middle of all these
yeah,
hills that are now
yeah.
constantly on fire. We're like, we got so lucky back then that nothing took off in the bushes. Uh,
And
yeah.
we wouldn't go home till dark,
Yeah.
and I think it was a time of innocence and learning new things, and I think maybe other generations, of course, have said the same things, but I think we were on the cusp of technology, so we've had the blessing of both having it and
Right.
not having it,
Yes.
which I think is amazing as well. But I do wonder if I sound like my grandparents now. Back in the day, I remember
Oh, I'm
when it.
sure. My kids laugh at that. Sometimes I go, oh, we did this. And they're like, we would never do that now. I'm like, yeah. But maybe things were a little too wild and we should have been more careful and didn't realize it. Like you said about innocence, you just didn't know better. And
Yeah,
just bring up a thing about technology that you'd said earlier. I just recently read something that might sit with people because I've been mulling it over a little bit. it says with technology now we hear 20 news stories about all over what's happening in China, what's happening in Africa, what's happening in Russia. And I'm just a little gal from Laguna. What am I supposed to do about it? Nothing. Well, you hear the same stories 20 times. They go, picture yourself a cave person, and most people know 5 mile radius of their town. And a
Yeah.
big world traveler would have walked 20 miles away and come back with stories of another tribe. And that's what you're supposed to know. So what can you do? Fix the garbage can at the end of the street. Do help sell some lemonade stands with the
Yeah.
kids. That's what we're really meant to do in our neighborhoods too. That doesn't mean don't think on a global level and don't help where you can, but don't let it weigh on you every day that, like you
Yeah.
said, the world's a terrible place full of terrible people. No, no, no. I've heard so many stories of a sick person on a bus and locals that don't speak the language just help that person off the bus and nurse them back to health for 2 weeks in their home, not taking any money for that. Just the beauty of human versus human,
Yeah.
humanity. So I
Be
think
a good human.
yes, and I think I would have fallen for this nasty news cycle, especially the last 5 years, if I hadn't had my wonderful world travels. I
Yeah.
would have went, "Oh, I can't travel now, it's so scary." No, no, I'm going whenever I can, wherever I can, and see what it's like.
That's a really good point of view because I've had that like with my coaching with women around travel. A lot of them are overwhelmed because there is so much
Yeah,
information out there and you end up getting stuck. But like, we touched on that we're seeing all this negative stuff. Start looking for all the good stuff, and
absolutely. When you start
just
seeing that, you see it more often.
yeah, and be a good person. Like, if you're a good person, hopefully, like you said, it's that butterfly effect. Yes, there's shitty assholes out there. Let's be real.
There definitely
There
is.
is everywhere. But one thing you can do as an impact is be a good human.
Yeah, just it took me a while to realize in my book because I did accept a lot of help from people on the travels. Oh, here's the free car ride. Oh, there's a boat ride. Here's a free sandwich. But I also left little breadcrumbs behind of myself and let me clean up where I stayed. Let me do a
Yeah.
little laundry. One lady had mice and I was sleeping on the floor and mice were running around and she said, "Oh, I wish I had a cat." And later I go meet a 104-year-old. This is in a tiny island outside of Sumatra. And the neighbor has had cats and they're the right age to take home. So I just swoop one up and bring her a gift. And there's just a moment where I say to her, because I just obviously brought her a 20-year commitment if she feeds him right. I go, "Can you afford cat food?" And she goes, "What is this cat food? What do you mean cat food?" And I thought, that's a very American way to word that. I go, "What are you going to feed the new cat?" And she said, "Oh, salmon and rice and things that I eat." And I went, "Of course, the world feeds their pets without American canned marketed cat food." Little things like that if I was raised in LA, which I was, you think the entire world's like LA and it's nothing like Los Angeles at all, which is a blessing to get your blinders lifted and see how the rest of the world lives.
100%, yeah. And it gives you a great perspective and to see that there's other ways of living outside of your bubble.
Right. I took my kids when they were 5, I took them to Australia, and my husband and I always thought we could go somewhere new every year, but then once we had kids, it's every 3 years because 4 tickets is way more expensive. But we took them at 1 to Hawaii, at 5 to Australia, at 9 to Australia and to Bali and Hong Kong, and that was
Wow.
right before the lockdown. And then it took all the way till last summer, 13. So, gosh, 5 years we didn't go anywhere because it took us a little while to get back on track there. But then we did a whole European thing with 6 countries. So it's important to me to show them the world. And we just live in a townhome and we're just driving Toyotas. We're just regular people. I'm a stay-at-home mom and an author, so I'm not a Stephen King. I don't pump them out. So I'm just selling them where I can and as often as I can. But it's important to me to maybe get 1 or 2 more trips with them before they go off into their
Yeah.
adult lives.
That's so cool. And it's so amazing that you are facilitating a space that you can do that with your kids. I think that's so important.
Well, they've learned just so much. Like, we grew up camping a lot, which was what we could afford when I was a kid. So I didn't go anywhere big or fancy when I was a kid. So we still do some of those trips as well. So there's highs and lows in life. You grab the highs where you can get them and you get through the lows to get to the next high. So I
Yeah,
think they've learned a lot about money flows, money comes, money goes. And hey, we've got something now
exactly.
that we're going to surprise you with. And then no, we had a funny story that we swooped them up and went to Hawaii. Oh, we went to Hawaii when they were 12, but tickets were $200 and we had a timeshare for free. So we really just said, if we just go grocery shopping over there, it's not going to be too expensive. And obviously we did a couple things that were touristy, but they're we bought the ticket 2 days before their birthday that they turned 12. So I
Wow.
said, big surprise. I go, we're going for your 12th birthday to Hawaii. And they went, woo. And I said, but for 13, we're probably having Pizza Hut, and a couple friends. And then funnily enough, stopped by, we did this whole paintball war gun thing for their 13th. And we ended up at pizza at the gas station outside of that. And they laughed. They go, you weren't kidding. And I go, oh yeah, I had quoted that we were going to have pizza somewhere with just
That's
a
so
couple of
cool.
friends. And they go, oh, this was the best birthday too. They liked both of them, so
You're building
yeah,
memories.
yeah. And just, it wasn't about the fanciness. It was about the laughter.
Yeah. And touching on your books, so obviously
Yeah.
you got When in Rome, and I'm going to put all the links in
Oh,
the
wonderful. Thank
section
you.
below. But you've also got a new book you're working on, more about
Right.
Oceania and your travels around here.
Wonderful. Yes. The first book, I travel around the world accidentally for 3 years, solo. I just go where I want, where the wind blows me, start working along the way, and that works out. But some of the friends that I meet once I get home, they go, why don't you come see me for a while? Why don't you come see me? And again, I'm just a waitress. So I save up and I go and I meet them. And then I go over and we start buying tickets to the next place and all of this. But one gal says, hey, I'm not going to be in England, but I will be in Los Angeles. And next month, I'm going all through the South Pacific if you'd like to go. So Easter Island, Tahiti, Moorea, Cook Islands, Fiji, Samoa, Western Samoa, and then back to New Zealand and Australia. So, and that book starts with England and the Canary Islands and a day trip to France. Like I just go to France for lunch, but it happens to be Bastille Day, which I didn't know. And I don't know what it is. And
Which
my
I
friend I
think's
was with didn't
now.
know. Right? So I
Yeah.
don't, there's so many things of just pure innocent luck that I just fumble into. So that one is nearly done. I'm about 30 pages from the end. And there's a
Oh,
lot of editing
exciting.
and things to print it up afterwards. I've got the cover made, so I'm excited about that. But it's going to be called Roaming Oceania. So I think I'm going to continue the roaming theme.
Yeah.
And I think I have a third book in me. Me and my husband and my kids' travels. The weirdest, funniest things happen too. So if I can continue that story, if I ever get the time, I will.
I think
But
that's a real neat trilogy.
yeah, I think so. I've started writing a children's book series as well, starring my children, but they find a little portal. And the first one, they go meet Santa. And the second one, they dissolve down into their own shadows and have to ride on a bird to
Oh, I
4th of
love
July.
that.
And the third one, they meet the Tooth Fairy and end up in the bloodstream of the neighbor and just funny things like that. So that's being illustrated right now. So hopefully the first one will be published before Christmas because the first one's a Christmas
Oh,
book.
that'd be awesome.
And I do have one more. This one's quite interesting. This one is called The Secret of Oak Island
And this is the
by
one, like,
Bertram.
I might have to, like, obviously I really want to read your other book, but I'm going to have to get this.
Yeah.
So me and my partner are Oak Island fanatics. But I
Wonderful.
can remember reading the story. So, and it goes back to the guys that do the TV show. I think they read it too. It's the Reader's Digest. There was a story in the Reader's Digest,
Yes.
if anybody knows what that is. And it was about Oak Island. So that was when I first found out about Oak Island. But you've got a real personal connection to it.
I watched the TV show for 10 years as well. Just an unfindable treasure hunt. Just for the audience that isn't familiar with this, it's a real island called Oak Island off of Nova Scotia. And for 200 years, people have been trying to find this treasure. They know it's down there because there's gold on the tip of their drills, but ocean water fills in and no one is able to get to it. So I didn't know this, but my family, my grandfather, my adventure grandfather wrote a book about Oak Island and it was lost and I found it in my own attic. We'd moved several times. My mom must have given it to me and it was in a box. And I went, oh my goodness, I'm going to print this up for my mom's 75th birthday. We'd lost my grandfather in the 1980s. And it's starring my triplet mother at 13 years old. It's a teen treasure hunt that is written in 1963. So there's a few Golly Gee Willikers in there and a few of just time capsule type of moments in there,
Yeah.
but it's as good as National Treasure and the Goonies, that type of real adventure that can only be put out there by creative adventurers as well. Because
I
my
think it'd be a
grandfather
great
lived a full life.
movie.
Yeah, I think so too. That would be
We
a fun
need
one.
another Goonies.
We do. We do need another one. So that's called The Secret of Oak Island by Bertram Smith. But if you look at Pamdiana Jones, it ties together because I just put myself as a co-author because I had to type it up
Yeah.
individually, page by page as well. I'm just so proud of him because obviously with computers now I can delete a whole page and keep going. And he had to type one finger at a time with a typewriter and you can see his scratched out his thoughts and stuff. So the fact he was able to do that at that time is quite something too.
And I think it's so special, that connection. And even the story of how you found that manuscript, I think that book. I think that's now again, that's an adventure, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's really cool.
It was just collecting dust in the dusty old attic, and here's
Yeah,
this fantastic adventure. And my children love to see that their grandma Wendy is one of the triplets, and their
yeah.
great grandparents that you don't always find a connection until you find that connection. Now they're like, oh, we know our great grandfather's sense of humor and the quirky things between the triplets with their personality, sense of humor, and things like that. So what a unique way to tie in with the older generation, I think too.
I think it's yeah. I mean, it sort of rounds up this episode. Like, I could keep talking to you for ages, and maybe it will be another episode. But there's two things that I just want to finish this episode up with. One's our
Sure,
quickfire
thank you.
round question, and then your signature question to ask the next guest. So I'm going to do
Oh,
the
sure.
quickfire one first, and this is actually really relevant. It sort of touches on your children's books. So, if you could time travel to anywhere in the world at any point of history, where would it be?
I just have to say, you had told me in the beginning that I needed a question in the end, and you just robbed me of that. That's what I was going to say.
That's fine. That's okay. We can still ask that, but I'm asking you this
I'll
one now.
think of a
I've
new
got it
one.
written down for my quick fire, so we must be
Oh,
thinking the
that's
same.
fun. I was thinking, wow, so we're two peas in a pod already. Um, I I'm just fascinated by ancient Egypt, and that's a
Yeah,
country in the whole Middle East that I've never been to in my life. And my daughter's actually got an Egyptian middle name. And if I can share a quick story about that, my adventurous
yeah.
family, my triplet mother has a 9-year older sister named Anita Fariel. She was born on Princess Fariel's first birthday, and they could see the fireworks over the Nile. And they named my Aunt Anita after Princess Fariel. And she got to go at the palace and play with the princess till she was about 8 years old when they moved back to England before my mother was
Wow,
born. So I thought I got to keep this story going, and we named my daughter's middle name is also Fariel, and that's just a
that's very cool.
unique part of our lives too. That I thought, oh, we gotta get there. I'm fascinated by the whale bones near the pyramids and how the granite's hanging up there. There's got to be sound frequencies or some kind of energy nuclear power plant or something going on there that nobody's figured out yet.
I don't think we have. I've been really lucky to have been there twice now. I'm
Yeah,
super lucky, and it still just utterly blows my mind away
I
every
bet.
time. There's stuff I think, from ancient history we just don't have the understanding of, and
I think
we may
they're
we
hiding a
may
lot
never
too.
have. You
Let me
know.
tell you one more thing about Egypt. I was watching a geologist National Geographic show, and they had something hidden, and they said, here's a picture of damage and here's another picture of damage. We'd like you to compare the two and tell you what you think. And he said, this one's clearly water damage. You can see the slow waves of it. And he goes,
Yeah,
this one's clearly sand damage because you can see the graininess of it. And they took it off what they were hiding. It was the pyramids and the Sphinx. And he
thanks. Yeah,
goes, he goes, turn off the cameras. I don't want to rewrite history because
yeah.
they're obviously not built at the same times. One would be 12,000 years older than the other ones.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
again, this is a whole 'nother episode because I got views on that
sure,
too, and
sure. I
I've
just love
seen
stuff
the
like that.
Sphinx, and
I
the
just wanted to say one
explanation they
more
give
thing.
you there is not. I don't know, I don't agree with it, but
I
anyway,
don't
that's
agree
another
either. There's
story.
more hidden. Yeah. I just wanted to go back to my book, When in Rome. We've talked a few about children's books, but this one is definitely rated R. Heads up, not for the kiddos. I drink some beers and drop some F bombs when needed. There's only so many things you can do when being chased by a herd of elephants and swimming with sharks while your hand is gushing blood and hitchhiking with tattooed face natives that may or may not be cannibals at this point. So there's only so many words that you can use that are age
I love
appropriate.
that disclaimer. So the other, I'll just do another, when packing, fold or roll?
Roll, always, no
Oh,
wrinkles. Yeah.
thank God. What was the best thing you've eaten while traveling?
Oh gosh, I'd say sushi in Venezuela of all
Oh,
things.
wow.
We could have went either way and we got lucky there. Yeah.
Yeah. So on that note, what is the worst thing you've eaten?
Gosh, again with the little island off of Sumatra, I'm at a barbecue and I unwrap a leaf and it's a coconut gel thing and I go, that's nice. And then I get handed this shellfish and it was super beet red dark and it just, I don't mean to be gross, but tasted like blood in the back of my throat, like as if you had a bloody nose. And I went, that's wrong. No, thank you.
At least you
Oh,
tried
but
it. You're braver than me.
I got offered a huge golf ball side fish eyeball and I turned that one down and I got lucky. Yeah. I was on a cargo boat, 17 hours in between Sumatra and a little island, and I was the only woman and the only tourist, and they were feeding me some fish and rice, just the local fishermen. And they go, "This guy's trying to be nice." He pops out the eyeball and he looks at me, and I go, "Absolutely not, but thank you." So
And again,
I
isn't
could have
that
been,
funny? We find that gross, yet that's actually sustainable. They're eating every part of the animal. It's
yeah.
the
And he was
actual.
probably being kind, like, "Here's the frosting on the cake. Would you like it?" And I went, "Nope."
So we'll round up with the signature guest question. So please ask, what's your question for our next guest?
Let's see. If you could go anywhere based on food, what would be your dream vacation? So is it
Ooh,
the curries from India or the Thai mango lassies or, things like that? Is it, Chinese food or what would draw someone there? There's a lovely sauce called peri peri sauce in South Africa. And lucky for me in Laguna, there's a wonderful South African restaurant that just has steak and chicken, but they have that South African vibes of the sauces and spices. So I get my fill there.
great question. So it's been such a pleasure. I really want to thank
Right
you,
back to you, yes.
Pamdiana, for joining us, and
Thank
it's
you.
been so good.
Wonderful. I just wanna say my books are available on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited, so that's where you can find Pamdiana Jones books,
Yeah, and
adventures.
I'm going to put all of her information and all her links where you can find her, and also find her books if you would like to purchase one. And they sound like really interesting reads. So
Thank
thank
you.
you again. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Lovely to meet you, Gina. Bye, everyone.
So stay tuned for the next episode, and remember, it's never too late to unleash your wanderlust.
Thanks for listening. Please share the love by liking, commenting, or subscribing, or join us in our Facebook community.